So you might remember a couple years ago, Lucasfilm Games came out and said that they were planning on releasing a Star Wars game every 6 months. Now, they haven't really fulfilled that promise just yet, but I think this Indiana Jones game could be in the place of one of those Star Wars games, because this thing looks really impressive, and let's be real, I think we all agree Indiana Jones fits somewhere into the Star Wars universe. It's Han Solo reincarnated in a later life.
It's me.
Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a game that I think is going to surprise all of us. I'm surprised they've even announced this. But what you might not realize, Indiana Jones games have a long history dating all the way back to the 1980s. There's been a lot of Indiana Jones games, including the Lego ones, which released in the 2000s, but not one in over 10 years. Which is where Indiana Jones and the Great Circle comes in.
The Great Circle.
And I think it's fair to say this looks like it could be the most accurate representation of Indiana Jones to date in a video game.
You have any idea how old that was?
In today's video, I have found everything there is to know about this game, when it's potentially releasing, which will be later this year, and what you can expect from this new Indiana Jones simulation, which looks like it could be the indie game we've all been waiting for years, and could potentially redeem the failures of the last few films. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. Now, not only is this Indiana Jones game the first in years, but it's also doing something quite different to any other indie game before, and that's being a first-person game, primarily anyway. You will see Indiana Jones in third person, especially when you're platforming or during cutscenes, and I think during some puzzle-solving elements as well.
It's me.
But largely, this is a first-person experience, developed by Machine Games, who you might remember have developed the Wolfenstein games in recent years.
Frankfurt. Sind Sie Frankfurter?
Ja, ein hot dog.
I personally have only played Wolfenstein: The New Order, which came out in 2014. It was the first in the reboot for the Wolfenstein series, but the reboot of that franchise has been largely successful, with extremely fun gunplay. And I think in some ways it's possible to expect that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle could maybe just be the first in a series of indie games. However, there is some controversy around this game, as at the moment it's only been announced for Windows and Xbox Series consoles. There's no mention of PS5, which is a little concerning, and this is due to the publisher being Bethesda in collaboration with Lucasfilm Games. But it looks like this game could only be coming to one of the two consoles, just as the Knights of the Old Republic remake is supposed to only be coming to PS5 and PC. Kind of disappointing at this stage. Hopefully we get an announcement later on that it potentially will come to PS5, but this could be an Xbox exclusive. Could be one of those games they're really going for the Game Pass thing. So if you're a PS5 gamer, then tough luck, I guess. Now, I may not have played the Wolfenstein games in a while, but I have recently been playing Uncharted 4, and the sense of adventure, action, and puzzle solving that game captures, not to mention the graphic fidelity, the cinematic cutscenes, and Nathan Drake's journey capture the essence of what an Indiana Jones experience is. And based on the mood and sense of adventure they've captured in the trailer and what they're showcasing this new game to be, I think this new indie game is going to nail that. But that said, I think this is part of the reason why they've chosen to go with first person. Uncharted 4 only came out maybe 6-7 years ago now, and the developers at Machine Games, along with Todd Howard, who's also an executive producer on this game,
who's laughing now?
wanted to take a bit of a different approach that would set it apart from the Uncharted series. Machine Games are obviously known for their first-person games with the Wolfenstein series and Quake in recent years, and being such pros at first-person, it'd be a bit strange for them to go and develop an entirely third-person game at this stage when you've got studios like Naughty Dog who are doing it on a ridiculous level. Some of the animations, the subtleties in Uncharted 4 are unlike anything else in any other game you've seen. So I think it's almost a clever move from Lucasfilm Games, from Bethesda, and from Machine Games to develop this game as a first-person experience instead. Now, with that said, what's funny is that Troy Baker, who plays Sam Drake in Uncharted 4,
hanging from a derailed train in the Himalayas,
is the voice of Indiana Jones, and he is absolutely nailing the Harrison Ford impression.
Patron of the fallen angels. Protector of the Chukulimani. It's me.
And he, of course, also played Joel in The Last of Us.
Now you're gonna mark it on the map. And it better be the same exact spot your buddy points to.
It's also really cool to see Dr. Marcus Brody back, and I'm assuming there's going to be a bunch of other cameos throughout the game, but I think it's really safe to say they're really nailing the authenticity of this world. So let's talk a little bit about the story and what this game is actually going to be about. The game is set between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade, which you may think is odd because you might be wondering about the Temple of Doom, which is the second Indiana Jones film, but that actually takes place the year before Raiders of the Lost Ark. The timeline of the Indiana Jones films aren't chronological.
More like a big ball of wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
The year is 1937. Sinister forces are scouring the globe for the secret to an ancient power connected to the Great Circle, and only one person can stop them: you, Indiana Jones.
It's me.
And when I say you, I mean you, because that's what the developers are seemingly emphasizing, and the reason they wanted to make this game a first-person experience is to put you in the shoes of Indiana Jones and make you feel like you're him. And there's a real emphasis on that style of gameplay, especially when it comes to using Indy's gear. Indy's whip looks like it's going to be one of the most prominent gameplay mechanics and has multiple functions, including use in combat. You can use it as a distraction, you can use it to solve puzzles, and you can also use it for traversal. Now, gameplay-wise, they're saying the story is of course linear and narrative-driven, but there's also going to be open area maps and a bunch of optional content, like optional puzzles, which will lead to rewards and bonuses. Potentially similar to a Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor, where if you go off the beaten track a bit, you'll discover an additional part of the map that might have been hiding in plain sight, which will then lead to another challenge. I don't know about any cosmetics in this game. I don't know how much of Indy you're going to be able to customize, if at all. So far, I've seen no mention of that, so maybe there will be no customization and cosmetics and no skill tree. It's not that kind of game.
It ain't that kind of movie.
But gameplay and combat-wise, there seems to be a lot of diversity. Now, the game being in first person, you're not going to be watching a lot of your character animations, I guess. It's more just you and your fists. And it looks like they've developed a whole fist-fighting mechanic system. Now, with every encounter of enemies you approach, it's entirely up to you about how you go about dealing with it. For example, you can use stealth. I'm pretty sure you can make your way around them without killing anyone. You can use melee combat. You can use your gun, or you can use a shovel. You can even pick things up in the environment, interact with them like the shovel, like a pickaxe, throw things. They seem to be giving you a lot of variety in how you actually go about playing the game, which is a great thing. Going to be whipping everyone into action. Get the whipping everyone. I do, however, want to say I think it's interesting they didn't really show the gun in the gameplay. Perhaps they're trying to keep Indy's PG image and not represent him as a killer. But I also heard you can disarm enemies and use their own guns and weapons against them. So that's pretty cool, which is similar to an Uncharted series. Generally, every mission you start in Uncharted, you start with just a pistol, and then as you shoot a few enemies, you can pick up an AK-47 or a grenade launcher and absolutely devastate them from wherever you are. Now, I know I'm making a lot of comparisons to Uncharted, but let's be real, those games set the standards for Indiana Jones style video games. And I love that this new Indiana Jones game is taking you to multiple locations and biomes, just as the Uncharted games do. Your journey will take you from the hallowed halls of the Vatican in Rome, to the arid deserts of Egypt and the pyramids, to the sunken temples of Sukhothai in Thailand, so like a jungle environment, and also to the frigid peaks of the Himalayas. And some of the set pieces look absolutely stunning. This is just a screenshot, but here Indy is on a boat, so it looks like there will be some vehicle gameplay. There's also some footage of you using a mounted cannon on an airplane, which looks like something directly out of the Wolfenstein games, which is kind of funny when you think about it, because in both games, Indiana Jones and Wolfenstein, you're killing Nazis. So the game starts with Indy working as a professor at Marshall College. The Indiana Jones moments in the films where he's just a teacher, a lecturer, never felt like we saw enough of those. He was always so charming and charismatic. I have a huge crush on Harrison Ford, what can I say?
It's me.
Anyway, Indy's woken in the middle of the night by a thief who's broken into the college to steal an artifact which seems insignificant, but this sets Indy on a great adventure. There is a female protagonist who looks like will accompany you for most of the journey, or for parts of the journey anyway, which is just like every single Indiana Jones story ever. Her name is Gina. She's an investigative reporter. She seems a little sassy.
Let's see if you can keep up.
What do you mean if I could keep up?
But the villain of the game, Emmerich Voss, has me incredibly intrigued.
Instead of ending up here, dead and forgotten in the sense of Africa.
And it's with a character like this where I think they're absolutely nailing the Indiana Jones aesthetic. This guy feels like he's directly out of an Indiana Jones adventure, especially with the way Indy treats him. He seems cunning, manipulative, but also a little stupid. Also, I think it's worth mentioning, John Williams, of course, scored the original Indiana Jones films, but Gordy Harb is responsible for the soundtrack of this game. And he did the soundtrack for Jedi Fallen Order, for Star Wars Battlefront, for a bunch of the other Star Wars games in recent times, and he's now moving into Indiana Jones. This guy has become like the John Williams of gaming. So when is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle actually releasing? Well, with Star Wars Outlaws supposedly set to release in the first half of this year, that's kind of the indication we're getting at the moment anyway. I think the Great Circle could be releasing in maybe October, November. They're saying it's coming out in 2024. They're yet to give a date or a month. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed, but sometimes video game delays aren't such a bad thing if the game isn't in a finalized state. We all know what happened with Cyberpunk. Now, if you're not subscribed, please do, and also come follow me on Instagram, where I'll eventually give away a copy of this game among other games. And if you want to know all the latest on Star Wars Outlaws, the next Star Wars game releasing in 2024, then watch this video here. And thanks for watching this. My name's Andrew. I'll catch you soon.